I think that he lied. He lied to people and said that he was going to bring down costs on day one. And the reality is that that is not at all what he's done. His tariffs, his unhinged tariff policy has raised prices for everyday Americans on everything that they need to survive.
You look at the key categories that we always look at: energy, food, and shelter. Energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%. And then shelter, we always usually see an increase because that is what people are paying on rent, and we know that rents are rising.
I can tell you that we're very happy to see that inflation continues to be well behaved. Since the president took office in February, CPI inflation has been running at a 1.9% annualized rate, which is a totally normal pattern of behavior for inflation and for prices. And as you pointed out, look, there's just still continues to be no evidence whatsoever of any tariff-induced inflation. I think lots of folks who are expecting that, who are predicting doom and gloom, it just hasn't panned out, and it continues to not pan out for them.
Hey, someone needs to check on these experts, okay? Democrats, you seem to offer yet again nothing, and it's 8 months now. We're way past halfway through the year. I think we're 80% through the year, and I've been still waiting for this tariff-induced inflation that Jerome Powell is holding up rates for. We don't know. We gotta wait and see. And I feel like I was obligated to make this video because on my last video, I said that the July report will determine if Jerome Powell gets fired, stays, goes, and it finally came out. The July report finally came out, and inflation is lower than expected, right? Another month, another inflation report showing inflation below experts' economic predictions is a long time to cut rates. And honestly, it's around the time period that he wants to cut rates. I think Jerome Powell said the earliest that he would consider cutting rates is September. So we'll see how, he reacts to all this stuff. But again, inflation to me comes across as tamed and predictable, right? Now, Democrats will make arguments about how, oh my God, cost is still up. Look at the underlying number. Look at all this. But I'm like, but the doom and gloom that you were so happy about in the beginning of the year has not come to fruition. And this kind of projection, this is the conclusion thing that I'm talking about that liberals do. They think a conclusion is true, and then they try to find evidence to back up that conclusion when it's supposed to be the opposite. Your data, your findings are supposed to inform a conclusion, not your imagination. And Democrats' imaginary conclusions, fear, I might add, is trying to drive public perception into having a negative reaction to the inflation report, to Trump's use of tariffs. When if you just listen to Trump in the beginning of the year, when these big CEO banks were saying, yeah, if Trump used tariff as a negotiation tool, this will be fine. Like it shouldn't cause inflation. What do you know? 8 months in, and tariffs are not, there's no correlation that tariffs is driving inflation. And this wait and see approach, this wait and see, how long are we going to wait? Expert. Like, this is my problem with experts. Experts. Big quotations. Triple quotations. How long do I have to wait to figure out your claim? You keep having theories that it's going to happen next month. It's going to happen next month. It's going to happen next. We're almost done with the year. 2025 is over in 4 months. And this inflation, this dramatic inflation, it's still not here. Where am I going to find it? Where am I going to see it? You want me to believe when Biden was averaging 6% inflation, you were cutting rates. But right now, Trump is averaging about 2.7% inflation month over month, and you don't want to cut rates? We're long overdue for a rate cut. And honestly, Jerome Powell, bro, I don't know what data you're looking at. But from what I can see, I think inflation is tamed.
We continue to see positive economic reports across the board. Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office. Prices for everyday goods continue to decline. Energy prices fell in July, including gasoline, which is down nearly 10% over last year, and propane, which is down 2.5% over last year as well. Egg prices fell once again in July and are down 20% since President Trump took office. Shelter inflation, the largest contributor to overall inflation, is at its lowest level since October of 2021. Wage growth for American workers is beating inflation once again. As inflation declines, this administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets. American real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office. And small business optimism, according to this morning's report, has also reached a 5-month high. Ignore the panicans and trust in President Trump. That is our motto here at the White House. The America First economic agenda is working.
Today. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Let's go over the numbers first. What do you see in those inflation numbers, CPI?
I see inflation that's running pretty well behaved. Inflation is tame. It's, consumer price inflation is running at a 1.9% annualized rate since the president took office. And that's an example of the effects of the president's profoundly disinflationary policies of deregulation, border control, energy abundance, and tax incentives to boost capital stock. That's all very powerful in bringing down inflation, and you're seeing it start to work.
If there's one suggestion that under the hood, some prices are rising, and that could be a result of the tariffs. Do you see that?
Yeah, so I don't see that at all. Let me say a couple things about that. Yeah, I don't see that at all. Let me say a couple things about that. First of all, what went up this month in this month's report, in terms of contributions, was used cars and airfares, and neither of those are particularly, traded things. We don't really import those from abroad. More generally, you have seen some relative increases in some goods categories, and that will always be the case. This or that good or service will always become more or less expensive relative to this or that good or service. But in aggregate, there's no evidence of it. What has gone up has also gone up internationally too. The same goods prices increases that we saw in very small scale in the United States, very small scale, you saw at similar scale in other countries like the UK, like Canada, like Mexico. Goods prices in the U.S. are running at a similar rate as in Europe. So there's just very little ground to stand on to sort of think that that tariffs are any meaningful driver.
Can you say?
We've been told so many times that it just hang on, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. That there was some of that built in, some of the idea. Okay, this is the time there's going to be some, because it was hotter, but obviously not as hot as what people were worried about. The market, the Dow was up 50 when the numbers came out. It's up 230 points or whatever, and then as you said, yields didn't move up. It's not a huge move, but you can definitely see that a couple of basis points came off across the yield curve, right? So what people were thinking, this will finally be the time when we see it. We saw a little, but not that much. Does that summarize what happened?
Absolutely. No, if I look at all the metrics, as I said, we were hotter in the beginning of the year, even on the hottest read on that year-over-year core. What it tells me is that if you take it very simple, you summarize very accurately. There's been a push that things are going to get worse. You're going to look at a month that's going to be really scary. But most likely, if you look at the entire regime of the effects of tariffs and the uncertainty, we are definitely over the hump. And considering that this number isn't worse than expected, I would say moving forward that your interpretation is exactly correct. We're way over our skis, and what we're really finding is the last mile inflation is sticky, it was sticky, and really in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't break out as that the last 3 or 4 months are extraordinary in any fashion.
Yeah, don't be a panicking, honestly. And this is what I'm talking about, like perception. The left fights for your perception, while as a conservative and people on the right, I believe we try to inform people of reality. Maybe a version of reality, maybe a narrow sense of reality. Sure, you can make all those claims about conservatives. Conservatives are too narrow-minded. They're not seeing the broader picture. You can make all those claims, but at least we're pointing to something that is demonstrable and provable in reality. But what Democrats are doing, trying to color your perception. Look at this. This is from the New York Times. U.S. inflation report shows effects of President Trump's tariffs. Look at the blue, right? That's Biden years. And look at the red. Make it make sense. But which administration is having more fearful and negative coverage on their economic agenda? Biden or Donald Trump? Look at let me zoom in for the people in the back. Let me zoom in for the people in the back. Look at the blue circle. That's Biden. Look at the red circles. Those are Trump. But who has more panic? Who has more fears? Who had more rate cuts? Joe Biden. But oh my God, the Guardian. I love using the Guardian. As you know, if you're new to this channel, I have this thing saved from the Guardian. The Guardian was telling you that Americans falsely believe that Biden's economy was bad or was wrong. Right? U.S. economy is going strong. Look at this. A year ago, U.S. economy going strong under Biden. Americans don't believe it. How you expect Americans to believe that when you saw the inflation right here in Joe Biden? But guess who got rate cuts? Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden. Majority of Americans did not believe that the Biden economy was good, and these liberal reporters try to gaslight you on inflation. They're telling you Biden's inflation was transitory. Trump versus Biden on inflation. The New York Times reports, I highlight, you decide. You decide, America, how you react to this. You decide. Kenny, why you don't trust experts anymore? Kenny, why are you so skeptical of experts now? Because I know they're human and they're prone to bias. And I know bias corrupts things to the point where it's unusable. Like it makes it ineffective. Your predictions are ineffective if your bias is corrupting or diluting the information. Look at Gemini AI. A bunch of liberal software engineers worked on it, and their liberal bias creeped into the generative AI to the point where it was making black Nazis, something historically inaccurate. Would not give you renderings of a white family. Instead, they'd rather give you an interracial family, but they'll give you a black family. Make it make sense. Liberal bias. And they, it's like, I don't know how frustrated. I don't know how to articulate my frustration. And I think this is the problem that a lot of Americans have with the liberal media. This is why the only group of people that trust the mainstream media is Democrats. 56% of Democrats trust their news from corporate media. Everyone else, no. Majority of them don't trust news from corporate media. This is why. You told us 6 months ago, it's going to happen this time. It's going to happen this time. It's going to happen this time. Like, when is going to happen? Tell me. Let me know in the comment section, leftists. When does this great inflation event is going to happen for us? The end of the year? We're almost there. We're 80% through the year already. And we're still waiting for this inflation, this doomsday inflation report you were talking about. You got a little, inflation came hotter than expected, and it wasn't that hot, like over 0.2% more. And then you said, oh, July's going to be even worse. And July came lower than expected.
All right, and breaking just moments ago, a very new, very important new data out from the federal government on the economy. The July CPI report just out shows that U.S. inflation was up just 0.2% last month. Let's get to CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich, who's got much more detail and much more of what is inside these numbers. What are you seeing?
A tamer inflation report despite President Trump's tariffs. This is better than expected. Month over month, as you mentioned, up 0.2%.
And I know I talk about framing a lot, right? Despite Trump's tariffs. How you know tariffs cause inflation? You don't, right? But when Republicans make the same claim about printing money, making the money go brr, government spending, they don't report it. The liberal media don't report that, right? When Biden had the highest inflation in 40 years, he was spending a lot of government money. He was printing a lot of government money. That causes inflation. That has a more direct, that has a bigger correlation to inflation increasing than the tariffs. But they keep attributing inflation to tariffs. Make it make sense. So if the media was being consistent with how they like to attribute outcomes to policy positions, they'll say inflation is high due to Biden's government spending. That would have been a more accurate report than what they're doing right here with the tariffs. And this is why I'm talking about these people are trying to color your perception. They're trying to get you to believe in a certain perception, so you vote based on that perception, not based on the reality. And I don't know how many times we have to show you the charts. Biden had the highest inflation rate in 40 years for a reason. And we survived that, but your doomsday predictions, your doomsday fear-mongering about what Trump is doing makes no damn sense. When we just survived, technically, if you look at it from an inflation standpoint, the worst administration in decades. But here you are, trying to create some negative framing about it, even though you're 6 months in and you've been wrong 5 out of the 6 times about inflation increasing. And even the one report you were right about, inflation didn't increase that much. Make it make sense. But I digress.
Percent on an annual basis, up 2.7% in July. That's also what we saw on an annual basis for the month of June. When you look at the key categories that we always look at, energy, food, and shelter, energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas.
Look at that. Shelter went up by 0.2, right? But Democrats are telling you, oh, costs are going up. Costs are going up. Oh, egg prices are on all-time high under Trump. But who got us there? Biden. Biden got us there. Biden got us to that plane. And Trump's starting to come down a little bit. But, liberals, they love to gerrymander with data. They love to lie with statistics. That's how you lie with statistics. On day one, I'm going to make egg prices go down. Did egg prices go down after or before Donald Trump became president? Egg prices started going down after Donald Trump became president. So technically Donald Trump is right. But you're going to go, no, look, compared to last year, egg prices are up. Yeah, but who caused us to be in that position in the first place? And Democrats don't want to admit how their policies set us up for the problems and situations we're dealing with now. And this is why Democrats lost in the first place in 2024. Because my argument to many people, especially the Harris supporters in my family, when they come at me and asking me, oh, why would I won't vote for Kamala Harris? I ask them, why would I vote for a person that was part of the problem that got us here in the first place? Think about it. Biden-Harris. The administration that had the highest inflation rate in 40 years, and you want me to trust her again to solve the problem that she got us into? Hell no. That makes zero sense to me. You don't hire the mechanic that break your car to fix your car. Hell no. You fire that guy and you get another mechanic to fix what's going on. And that's what America did with Donald Trump. And Democrats are wishing, and this is why we're saying the Democrats hate Donald Trump more than they love America. This is what we're talking about. You want Donald Trump to fail despite him having success because it doesn't benefit you politically and also because it makes Donald Trump look good, which what Democrats hate the most. Rather than, oh, look, this is good for Americans. Food prices didn't increase. Energy prices is going down. That's good for Americans. No, they don't care about that. They don't care about inflation only increased by 0.2 on average. It was like 1.2, 2.7. But income has risen over the year 5% for workers. That means workers salary increases is outpacing inflation. We should be saying that's a good thing. But Democrats won't acknowledge that, because if they acknowledge that, that means that it's to admit that Donald Trump is doing something right. And the American people was right to put Donald Trump in this position. And the Democrats can't have that. Their ego can't take that. I digress, though. Let's continue.
Gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%. And then shelter, we always usually see an increase because that is what people are paying on rent, and we know that rents are rising. That is usually the biggest share of this report. But when we look at core inflation, this is where we're starting to see some of those price increases. Okay. Core inflation actually came in hotter than expected. So month over month, up 0.3%, and on an annual basis, up 3.1%. That's actually the highest reading we've seen since February. And this is important because it strips out that volatility of the energy, of the food prices. Right. So you're looking at other categories like apparel, toys, furniture, appliances.
Let's go back. She's complaining about core inflation because they stripped out all the necessities, in my view. Energy, food, shelter. Those are the necessities. Outside of necessities, these are all things you can control. And this is why I think I have such an optimistic view, because I'm not much of a consumer. I don't go out and buy apparel every week, every month. Like, I barely buy myself clothes. I think I buy myself clothes like maybe every year, maybe once a year, kind of. And that's usually during the holidays with my wife.
Categories. Other categories like apparel, toys, furniture, appliances. These are things that people are spending more discretionarily. You see, though, toys up 0.2%. Furniture came in, that should be 0.9%. 0.9% on furniture. Appliances, though, down. We saw a lot of people front loading those bigger purchases of appliances before the tariffs hit. So that may be a pullback in consumer spending. Apparel, clothing, back to school shopping up up 0.1%. And then beef prices was on there. We've seen beef price.
So out of all the things they're complaining about that they stripped out, only beef is something I think that, but it's still discretionary. You can choose to pay that. But the necessities are down. But hey, hey, I give it to them. Hey, there's some price increases. Fine. But those are mitigatable. Those are manageables for the American people. They can make sacrifices for that.
Rising dramatically over the past couple months, up 2.4%. So while you're saving some money at the grocery store, certain items like beef are up 2.4%. And we're looking at markets right here. You can see they are up. This is a better than expected report in the face of so much tariff uncertainty.
Because your bias expect inflation to be driven by tariffs when it's not driven by tariffs, right? But yeah, I digress, man. I honestly, I didn't care about nothing she said about appliances, toys, furniture. I don't buy those things. Are not something you buy everyday item. Everyday item is shelter. Everyday items is food, energy. Those are things I spend most of my money on, necessities. But my wants, like, okay, I don't get to buy a shirt. Like I buy clothes once in a while. All right, this makes me. I was about to say something. It makes me think about consumerism and who mostly participate in consumerism. It's mostly women, right? Women go out here buy toys, apparels, appliances, furniture, right? Recycle these things, buy new, So maybe that's something that matters to female consumers, but that's all within your purview. You don't have to spend that money. You have to spend money on shelter, food, and energy. Those are money you have to spend. So if those increases, yeah, those would be more significant for me. But if someone told me, hey, here's the inflation report, is this a good report? I'll say yes, it is. Because the necessities prices are trending downwards. Only shelter really went up. And that, maybe you move, maybe you compete, maybe you go to another apartment that's offering lower prices. It's all within our power, all within our purview, but I think that we're trending in the right direction. And I think with the shelter stuff, it can help a lot if Jerome Powell cut rates, but we'll see what he decides to do at the end of this month. Because with the report I see, I expect a rate cut. Honestly, I honestly expect a rate cut. But let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys, your interpretation or your views on the economy has become since the inflation report came out. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.